Journey is a video game that is challenging to explain. If it were to be quantified by the events of the game, it could be described as a walking simulator where the player walks through the environments for the 2 to 3 hours of playing time toward a mountaintop. However, this is not the story of Journey. Journey's story is a complex reflection on connection, vulnerability, identity, and humanity, facilitated by the game's simple but sophisticated user design. It transcends and transforms both online and terrestrial place. Journey was one of the first video games I'd ever properly played. As I turned the game on, I was introduced to a sprawling desert and a distant mountaintop. Quickly, I was joined by another robed figure, an NPC, or so I thought. My companion, like me, searched the landscape with curiosity and called out with a singular note whenever I had missed something. There was no other way to communicate except for that call, but we used it effectively, chiming rapidly when something excited us, or to check where the other was, or in order to charge our cloaks so that we could fly longer, higher, and further. Finally, at our mountaintop destination, we stopped at a gap in the peak. Then we stepped into the crevasse together. My companion walked ahead of me at the end of our journey, but frequently stopped to wait so that we would have this final experience of the game together. The screen was overcome with light and the game ended. Then I was presented with a message. A username came on screen, informing me who I'd been playing with. This wasn't an NPC at all, not designed, nor strategized or composed. A real person had called for me, out of fear, or encouragement, or excitement. Someone somewhere had intermittently waited for me in our last moments together. I began to cry as the credits rolled, so moved by this gesture of care from a total stranger, so trivial but so profound. I am not the only one to have felt this way after finishing Journey. Blogs and forum threads are dedicated to describing spiritual experiences I've had with the game. This user-to-user interaction was inspired by an experience Journey game designer Chris Bell had with another multiplayer game. While playing, Bell was moved by the gesture of another player, but the game didn't have any way to signify gratitude, built-in or otherwise. He tried to thank his companion over the game's live chat, but there was a language barrier that they couldn't overcome. This particular game only facilitated competition, and not compassion, because it had been designed that way. Journey director Jehovah Chen states, "The goal was to create a game where people felt they are connected with each other, to show the positive side of humanity in them." Journey did this in a number of ways. Firstly, it countered other popular multiplayer games of the time by removing its combative elements. There is no fighting action in Journey. The player can only call, fly, and walk. Journey grants no points, hosts no leaderboards. There are no winners or losers. Instead of the normal culture of competition, Journey instead fosters cooperation and communitas. Furthermore, Journey eliminated the player's identity signifiers. Multiplayer video games are infamous for their negative and dangerous social communities.
Come to me over the headphones, said to me, "Do the world a favor and kill yourself." And I haven't played a Call of Duty game since.
To counteract this, the Journey player cannot customize their avatar, and companion usernames are only available to the player once the game is completed. Language is also eradicated from the game by the use of the musical chime. Chen describes language as being barriers that keep us from understanding each other. Bell justifies the removal of these identity barriers because it gets people to empathize before their prejudices allow them to draw lines between each other. Erasing identity signifiers as a tactic to minimize violent interaction has been criticized, and for good reason. In their book, Control and Freedom, Power and Paranoia in the Age of Fiber Optics, author Chan points out that this approach places the onus on the signified rather than the signifier. Although no race rather than no racism leaves open the possibility of racism without physical markers of race, this formulation effectively conceals individual and institutional responsibility for discrimination, positing discrimination as a problem that the discriminated must solve. I agree with this criticism, and believe it should be considered against all online platforms, including Journey. However, I also believe that Journey is just one approach to solving issues of online relationships. Journey is not the solution, not even an entire answer, but a small part of a greater whole in understanding online space. It demonstrates that people reach for connection first, and prejudice is secondary. It is proof that these problems can be helped by great design and powerful compassion. And this is the story of Journey.